Hi, my name is Partho and I work as a coach and mentor in the competitive exam preparatory industry. I teach B school and law school aspirants primarily in the areas of English language, communication skills, and trying to enhance their ability to crack interviews. I got a call from an ex-student of mine who's also a very dear friend who told me that he's finding life a little difficult because he's unable to express himself confidently, fluently, and correctly in the English language when it comes to interviews. I thought I'd take this opportunity to address his concerns, which are not only his, but I guess of millions of us Indians who are trying to foray into the marketplace. You like it or don't like it, English as a language of communication is the accepted language in the business world, and your ability to speak the language fluently and correctly, I won't say sets you apart from others, but clearly gives you an edge over your peers. Now, I thought that I'll address this and talk about something very basic and fundamental and primary, which would probably help others also who are listening and for whom this is also a concern. I'll just touch upon three things, and later on, if you're interested, we can talk of other things if you put questions to me. I think one of the primary reasons that we do not do well in speaking the English language, both fluently and correctly, is we have an inherent inhibition about the language, and we suffer from something called an inferiority complex against those who can speak their language fluently and correctly. This primarily comes from a colonial hangover, but there are many other socio-economic reasons. I'm not trying to delve into those, but there is no denying the fact that this kind of complex with people who think they cannot speak in the English language fluently and correctly. I think this stems from the fact that there are three mistakes that they make. Number one, they think that speaking English language is a skill set. B, they think it's a measure of smartness. C, they think it's a passport to a wider acceptance by the society. Unfortunately, the language is neither. It's just a language, just like any other language, like Bangla, Hindi, Japanese, Tamil, Spanish, you name it. A language essentially has two things to do. One is functional. It carries your expressions to the other guy. And the second thing is aesthetics, how beautifully you can say a certain thing. Let's talk about functional language because that's what we are more concerned with. The first thing that you guys need to do is accept the fact that English language is neither a skill nor a measure of smartness and neither a passport to the elite society. It's just like any other language. First of all, the acceptance of this fact is very, very important. You cannot allow yourself to suffer from any kind of complexes because you can't speak English as fluently or correctly as, let us say, I am doing right now. There's no reason to feel bad about it. Of course, if you can do it, it gives you an edge over others, as I said, in the competitive world, which is primarily run in the English language. But your inability to do so right now does not mean that A, you are unsmart, B, you can never do it. So how to do it? So, there are a lot of fly-by-night operators. I watch them day in and day out on YouTube and other areas where they claim to teach you how to speak English fluently, and most of them are speaking a lot of nonsense. First of all, you have to get rid of this complex. That's very important. So it's more psychological than technical, right? That's number one, which is very, very important. The second thing, which in my experience I've seen, the second problem is that when you try to speak the English language, what you essentially do is try and think in vernacular and then translate it into the English language. Now, this does not work. I'll tell you why this does not work. Languages have their own structures, right? If you look at English as a language, it is a very rigid structure, as opposed to Indian languages, especially North Indian languages, where the structures are extremely malleable. For example, if I say I love you, that's the ideal structure of the simple sentence, which is subject, verb, object. I is the subject, love is the verb, you is the object. If you translate this into Bangla, for example, you'll say Ami tomake bhalobashi. So you have the subject first, the object next, and the verb next. In fact, you can say Tomake ami bhalobashi, which is the object first, subject next, verb last, which is equally correct grammatically. I can say Ami bhalobashi tomake, which is very similar to the English language, which is subject, verb, object. I can say bhalobashi ami tomake, which is verb, subject, object. So I can say the same thing in 4 different ways and nobody is going to put a finger at me because everything is grammatically correct. But you can't say a thing like love I you in English or I you love in English. That is not allowed. And therefore, if you're thinking in the Bengali language or an equivalent language like Hindi, and you're translating it into English, the basic mistake that you're making is you don't understand the difference between these two languages structurally, and therefore you're messing it up. So unless you are able to think in the English language, you'll not be able to speak in the English language. That's something very, very important, and you have to practice doing it. Practice thinking in the English language. You cannot afford to think in vernacular and then translate the whole thing here. Yes, conceptually, you will know what you're translating, but the form will be very different from what it actually should be. And then, of course, you cannot speak correctly, right? So that's something that you need to be really aware of. It takes time, it's easier said than done, but if you're at it, you will be able to achieve it at some point in time. The third thing which I want to talk about is something very different, which is language. Speaking a language clearly, correctly, fluently is a muscle memory, right? You cannot speak a language fluently if you have to think about it. Yeah, there will always be a time lapse between your thoughts and and the sound that comes out of your mouth, and that will dent your confidence to a large extent. How to do this? Unfortunately, in our families, we don't get an opportunity to speak in the English language. In fact, in all the kinds of areas that we go to and mix with people like schools, colleges, workplaces, neighborhood, friends, we usually speak in the vernacular language, or we speak in a language which is neither here nor there. But the ability to speak a language fluently has to be organic, which means you cannot think and speak. It has to be simultaneous and parallel, where there is no time gap between thought process and what you are saying. To be able to do that, where you do not have an opportunity to speak with other people in the English language, the best that you can do, or one of the smart things that you can do, is read aloud something which is written in the English language. For example, a newspaper. If you read the first page of a newspaper aloud, it will take probably 10-15 minutes or even more, which means you have 15 minutes of practice of speaking correctly written English sentences. Somebody else has written, somebody else has proofread it, somebody else has edited it, so you can trust the correctness of the language. So you learn two things. One is how to pronounce the words, and B, how they sound when you pronounce them. And when you practice doing this, you become more confident that I have heard this word before and I know exactly how to pronounce it. And your tongue also gets acclimatized with speaking the English language, which is very, very different from your mother tongue, whatever it might be. Try doing these three things. As I said, it's easier said than done. Everything gets better with practice. So you have to do this practice day in and day out. It won't take more than half an hour every day to do this. Start thinking in the English language. Don't be afraid of saying grammatically incorrect English language, because what you want to do is just express yourself. Don't bother about grammar too much. Say what you feel like, but think in the English language. Speak and practice speaking by reading aloud newspapers and other texts, even if you don't have an opportunity to converse with somebody else in the English language. Try doing these things. Rahul, hope you are listening, and try doing these things. practice these. I'm sure you're going to improve over a period of time. And if you have any questions, you can always put those to me. I hope this video helped you. If you have any questions, please let me know. I'll be very happy and eager to help all of you. Thanks, Rahul, for bringing this up. I thought I'll take this opportunity, and sorry not to answer you personally, because I thought this was a concern which is shared by a lot of others, like your friends also. So I guess this helps. If you have issues, just talk to me, right? Bye. Take care.